Hey guys, it's Deconic, and in this one, we're going to be talking about the latest revealed PathofExile 1 Ascendancies for the Legacy of Phrecia event, and what I am considering league starting for either of them. I say considering though because both Ascendancies excite me a lot, but I am kind of still holding out on more reveals before I make a definite decision. And then to keep this video a bit shorter, I'm not going to be talking about every single node from both Ascendancies, but I am going to be highlighting some notable mentions that are relevant for minion builds, and then I'm going to be talking about minion builds that could be big winners with each of the Ascendancies. To start things off, we are going to be going over the obvious minion ascendancy of the event, which is called the Servant of Arakaali. This ascendancy is focused around chaos and poison minions, with nodes like Skin Crawlers, which provides minion poison and Wither Chant. These are two stats that typically take some investment in gear or jewels to have, just given in a first ascendancy, which is kind of wild. Aside Skin Crawlers, there are some other really strong options. Notable mentions are Broodguard, which triggers level 20 Raised Spider on kill, as opposed to Arakaali's Fang's level 1 skill. Being an ascendancy skill, it cannot be linked with support gems, so it is very unlikely that we can make builds around this node. However, Raised Spider does provide a buff to the player, so it will likely see more use for non-minion builds as a support node for extra wither, attack speed, and increased poison damage. There is also a very small chance that you can trigger both skills separately, i.e. level 1 Raised Spider and level 20, to have 20 spiders from each, totaling 40 spiders, total. But I wouldn't bank on this being the way they interact with each other. If you haven't already, do consider liking and subscribing, as it helps a lot with the algorithm and with hitting our 2025 goal of getting to 2,000 subscribers. A goal that if we hit, I will be revealing my face on stream and on YouTube afterwards. So if that interests you, do consider subscribing. The Ascendancy also provides a level 15 envy for free, while also removing its reservation, so it can still be paired with both Chayula swords if you wanted a level 25 envy. Aspect of the spider is already an aspect, which makes nearby enemy take increased damage per stack, while also applying hinder to slow them. But with Silk Dancer, enemies now also deal reduced damage and have minus 15% all res, which is a very, very nice icing on the cake. It should be noted that Silk Dancer is a flat debuff and does not increase its effect with each aspect stack. Now, for minion builds, I think are going to be strong on this ascendancy. As a no-brainer, I think Arakaali's Fang is going to be very strong, and basically every poison minion build will find this is probably their best in slot ascendancy, thanks to the free Wither Chance, no reservation envy. There are a bunch of things in here that really amplify the poison minion experience. Now, as a for fun build, I am going to be considering using this ascendancy for a Herald of Agony minion build, as it's a minion that I personally haven't explored in the past. I don't know how good it's going to feel, but I'm excited to try it, and that's what's important. And while I'm not sure how accurate Path of Building is for calculating its DPS compared to like other builds that are out there currently for Herald of Agony, I love where I was able to get its damage too. So we're going to see how it's going to perform. I don't think it's a league starter. I think it's something you have as a second build once I do have some currency though. That is one big thing to note. Now, for the Disciple of the Trialmaster, this ascendancy on first glance didn't really excite me for minions, I'll be honest. But after doing some more looking into Val skills, I realized that there was one I hadn't really explored. And with that skill in mind, this ascendancy became even more exciting than the Servant of Arakaali to me. Now, before I go over what skill this is, let's talk a bit about the ascendancy. The first thing you need to know about this ascendancy is that if you don't plan on running a Val skill, this ascendancy probably is not for you. To understand why this ascendancy is so good for Val skills though, let's TLDR what Val skills are. Now, Val skills are very powerful upgraded versions of base skills, which require a number of souls to use, which are gotten by killing enemies, followed by a period where you are unable to collect souls for any Val skills. The number of souls and the lockout period is different for each Val skill and is affected by your increased and more skill effect duration modifiers, So keep that in mind. Starting with the VAR related nodes, Depose Order is going to be a must-have for any Vow skill, as if it works like the Runesmithing Dagger enchant, which directly affects the base prevention duration, then this node is going to be multiplicative, not additive, with sources of skill effect duration. This means that if a skill like Vow Absolution with a base lockout prevention duration of 30 seconds, with this node, it will become 15 seconds, which will then be affected by your skill effect duration modifiers, making this a very powerful node. And that's ignoring the small travel node, which is, before it, that will likely have a 10% prevention duration reduction as well. I also haven't talked about the crit chance this node provides, as it will not affect minion crit chance in any way. Now, Fever for Corruption might seem insane at first, but it is more niche than you might expect, because with the increased Vow skill effect duration, that will also increase your soul gain prevention duration. So the main draw of this node is the second line, which says Vow skills require 50% reduced souls per use, which essentially means if you fill up to the max number of souls your skill can have, you would typically be able to use your skill twice. So now this is useful in scenarios where you're mapping, for example, and you get to the boss and you need your Vow skill to burst the boss at the end, and this allows you to use that Vow skill twice. Just keep in mind that after each use, you are going to be activating the lockout duration. So if you do decide to use this node, you have to play around that. Chaos Reigns is pretty straightforward. It gives you 3 levels to all your Vow skills, including your main. So this is, of course, more useful for some Vow skills than others. But what you might not realize about this node is when combined with nodes like Shepherd of Souls from the Forbidden Secrets node, which we're going to talk about in a bit, you can effectively gain 3 levels on most auras, as many of them have Vow versions. Just keep in mind that while multiple Vow skills require souls, soul gain is split amongst them, so it won't be possible for some builds to take advantage of this as much as others. Forbidden Secrets is a node which grants Shepherd of Souls and Everlasting Sacrifice. Shepherd of Souls is a keystone which grants non-aura Vow skills 80% less soul cost, but increases the soul cost by 100% for each time one is used in the last 8 seconds. This means for a skill like Vow Absolution, which requires 40 souls base, you would only need 8 souls the first time you cast it, then 16 souls, then 24, then 30, and so on and so forth. This is if you keep casting it within a span of 8 seconds. So if you pair a skill like this with Shepherd of Souls and Depose Order's prevention duration reduction, and of course with Chaos Reigns, you can level up your Vow aura skills, and it's going to look something like you would use Absolution, which would take a few seconds to then gather souls. Once you have 8 souls on your Vow Absolution, you would use that. That triggers an 18-second lockout duration for a minion, which would last 25 seconds. If you take the minion duration wheel, of course. Now, side note, minion duration does not affect soul gain prevention duration. This effectively means for the 7-ish seconds after prevention timer runs out, you can easily gather another 8 souls to cast Vow Absolution, even while splitting with those other Vow skills, which would of course stop splitting when they fill up, increasing your uptime on your Vow Absolution. Forbidden Secrets also grants Everlasting Sacrifice, which is a keystone that makes it so when you reach full energy shield, it sacrifices all of your energy shield to grant 5% to max all res for 4 seconds. And do note this is all res, so it includes chaos res. To properly use this node, you want to make sure you have 100% uptime on this buff. This means making sure your ES never takes damage, so you're always recharging. And then there are a number of ways to do this, but the easiest 2 ways would be by either using Divine Flesh, which makes all damage bypass ES, or going Eldritch Battery, which makes your ES cover your mana bar instead. Just keep in mind that with Divine Flesh, you would already have 100% uptime without doing anything else. But with Eldritch Battery routes, you would need to scale ES recharge rate for max uptime, as Eldritch Battery comes with a 50% less energy shield recharge rate modifier. And you would also have to factor in how much mana you are spending per second, since it would be your ES getting spent instead of your mana. And or alternatively, you could just pair Eldritch Battery with Impure Blood Ascendancy node, which makes your skills cost life instead of mana. As for what minion builds would be big winners for this Ascendancy, any Val minion skill, which scales very well with levels, which is basically every minion skill, should be pretty strong. So just think along the lines of Val Summon Skeleton of Mages, Val Dominating Blow, and Val Absolution. And if it was not obvious enough, I plan to play Val Absolution with this Ascendancy. As with the points we mentioned earlier, we can have permanent uptime on Innocence, which, if you didn't know, is actually the minion your Absolution Sentinels would ascend to. Overall, both Ascendancies provide a lot of benefits for minion builds, and with 15 more Ascendancies which have yet to be revealed, I have absolutely no doubt we're going to see some more very interesting choices down the line. Be sure to leave a comment down below on which Ascendancy you are most excited about and why. If you haven't already, do consider liking and subscribing. And with all that said, thank you for watching.